So as you know the gospel, Jesus is at the Last Supper. And Jesus knew that he was going to die within 24 hours. So that in itself is a good meditation. I hope you think about that once in a while in prayer. Look at the cross and realize Jesus knew this was coming and was willing to do that. I can't imagine the cruelty or the pain that he must have endured on the cross, but he did it out of love for us. So that in itself, I think, is a good start in our meditation. But then also think about ourselves, as I mentioned at the beginning. If you knew you were going to die within the next 24 hours, what would you do? So often I get called when people are at the last stage of their life. In hospice now, they have the terminology when somebody is actively dying. That's usually when I get called. But by that time, the person is normally in a coma, so they can't participate and pray along. So the whole sacrament is meant to be given earlier than that. But if you knew that was going to happen, how would you spend the last 24 hours? I think all the things on our bucket list would become rather trivial. And even if you're a Milwaukee Bucks basketball fan, I don't know if this afternoon's game would be that important anymore. But what would you do? So we look to Jesus. What did he do? And we try to learn from that. So first of all, what he did on that night before he was crucified is celebrate this great meal, the Eucharist. That's what we do in his memory. But did you catch that? We do this in his memory. We do not do it for ourselves. That's where I think we get misdirected. So often people come to Mass because they just want to receive communion, and that's wonderful. But that's not the point of the Mass, just to receive communion. It's to allow this word we have heard and that Eucharist to change us. Because what did Jesus say? Do this in memory of me. Not you, but him. That this should help us change so that we remember him. How often do you think about him during the week? That's what this is supposed to do. So on that night when he told the disciples he was going to leave, his disciples were like little children. You know, when the parents go out for an evening and they bring in a babysitter, what are the children? Where are you going? Do you have to go? What time are you going to be home? We're worried. That's what the disciples were asking Jesus. Where are you going? When are you going to come back? We're worried. We're afraid. We're the children of God the same way. We want to know where God is leading us. We're probably prepared to die because I don't think any of us are going to get out of this life alive. But wouldn't we all like to die in our sleep, pain-free, and just let it go? But Jesus is calling us to participate in his life. So in the gospel today, 5 times Jesus talks about that he's going to be glorified. Now that's a fancy church word that probably means very little to any of us. But what Jesus was trying to say to us is that during this life, take on a positive attitude. And this is for a wonderful examination. All during the week, think about what you think about and what you say. How much of it is positive? Because we live in a very negative society. The whole goal seems to be to put ourselves first. In order to do that, we try to drag other people down. We want to lower their reputation. We want to dig up dirt. We want to find out what's wrong with their lives so we can bring them down. That's just a sign of all the negativity, and we cannot buy into that. Jesus said, glorify, be positive. If you can't say something good about something, keep your mouth shut. That's the message of the gospel. And Jesus' glory was in the cross. And the cross is always a sign of self-denial. If we don't deny ourselves and our own selfish ambitions, we will never participate in the cross. That's our security. But again, in the world, we base our security what? On cameras, locks, insurance. You can buy insurance now not only for your bank account, but for your pets. Our insurance is in the cross of Christ. That's the challenge. That during the hardships of life, the first reading, we cannot participate in the life of Jesus without trials and hardships. But during the hardships of life, we model ourselves off of him. Because as I said at the beginning, we're here to remember him. Now, the gospel, as I mentioned, and you know, love one another. Don't just stop there, but love one another as I have loved you. The word is as. So we have to take all of the hardships of life into ourselves, but not just pass them on to others. We are not called to be conduits of what goes around us. We're called to people who change. And the best example that I read this week was, what does a mother do when her little child has a temper tantrum? Kicks and swears or lays on the floor and holds their breath, exemplifies all of the evil in the world. Does the mother return that back to the child? Of course not. What does the mother do? She picks up that little person, hugs him, absorbs all of that anger and negativity, and then transforms it for the child and for herself. So whatever trials and hardships you might be going through, whatever negativity you receive, however the evils of the world might affect you, don't pass it on. Image the cross of Jesus and transform it and pass on the love, his love, to others.